Hello, and welcome to this week's Mindset Podcast. I am excited about this week's podcast. I actually have Stephen Meadows. I'm currently the COO of Coldwell Banker, 7 different states, 16 different offices. So, Stephen, if I've looked at this correctly, you started as a realtor, worked up to managing broker, worked into broker, franchise for management of Coldwell Banker, director of strategy, COO now, and you were named 2022 Real Trends Emerging Leaders. That's a pretty extensive background there in the real estate industry. How did you get involved in real estate in 2001?
So I sold a stereo to a real estate broker when I was working at Big Lots in my hometown, and she was so impressed with my skills. We chatted and we kept in touch, and after I decided I didn't want to work retail anymore during my senior year of high school, she hired me to be an admin, and I've worked my way up from front desk admin to COO over the course of 22 years. So it's been an interesting ride for sure.
So a lot of the startup companies, whenever they start, right, it's like start out of the garage or the basement of, right? You actually have similar story because you started as an admin, but started from the front desk and now you've got the big corporate office with the C-suite title. In those 19? Oh, well, no, 19. I'm thinking 2022, right? In those almost 13 years of experience that you have, where do you think you've had the most amount of growth that has kind of helped propel you to being able to be the COO of 16 different offices?
I would say my time with the Coldwell Banker brand was probably the most valuable. Everything I've done has led me to this. So every job I've had has been a stepping stone. But I spent, about 4 years at the corporate level with Coldwell Banker, the national franchise. And so I've, worked with hundreds of our brokers across different regions. I had 2 different regions as a brand ambassador is what they were called. Now they're called account managers. I was basically a franchise liaison. I was working with the broker owner of the company and helping them engage with the tools and all that. So that gave me a really big depth of knowledge with the Coldwell Banker system and just how to operate a brokerage. And then I took over 6 states in the Midwest as a franchise sales director. And so I was, knocking on doors, having conversations about mergers and acquisitions, whether it was, one of my affiliates wanted to buy somebody or I was trying to get them to buy a franchise. That opened a lot of doors as well. That was sort of the final piece that I was missing in my well-rounded real estate career was kind of the franchise side of things. Learned a ton from the training that they offered, learning a lot about what to say in conversation, what not to say in conversation. And also that position is how I met my CEO, Steve DeBruler. I was representing the brand in one of his states, and we kind of connected, and one thing led to another. Here I am.
That's awesome. So, do you miss being out on the field at all? I mean, I know it's kind of a hit or miss question, but do you like the operational aspect of what you're doing at the C-suite? And is there anything that you miss about being on the field?
I don't really miss the real estate sales, but I do miss the B2B sales that I did with American Home Shield. So I was a home warranty rep for a few years after the market shifted. I was an REO, so I was foreclosure all the way, one of the top foreclosure agents in Nashville. And then the market shifted, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I went into home warranty sales. I miss that. I miss the networking. I miss that just kind of the thrill of the hunt a little bit. That's why I liked franchise development, because it was a lot more B2B style. I'm definitely more of a B2B, business to business person than a business to consumer person. So that's what I enjoy. That's probably what I miss the most, but I do enjoy the operational side. It's easy to get bogged down with, stupid problems like I can't get this tool to work, or I can't get logged into this system, and I spend, an hour trying to help somebody navigate, the support stuff. Probably my biggest challenge is because I am so knowledgeable with the tools and the tech from Coldwell Banker's side. I'm the one that everybody goes to. Like, how do I get into this thing? So then I've got to spend my time doing, which I love to do. I love to help, but as you probably know, at the C level, there's a lot bigger fish to fry sometimes, and so it's easy to get stuck into this. I didn't get this big project done today because I was spending, I spent 10 of my, important hours, it feels like, on these little tiny tasks, and I didn't get the big thing done, but I was busy all day, but I didn't really accomplish much, except I made people happy because now their stuff works.
Well, then hopefully they'll be able to go out in the field, make more sales, and ultimately that comes back to Coldwell Banker. But as far as C-level suite, I mean, what do you think is been the biggest challenge for you going from being out into the field? And I guess I'm really looking more for advice. I've spoken to a lot of agents who, you've got a couple of agents who nobody wants to continue to be an agent, right? We could agree on that. Either you want to start out as an agent and then you want to work and build a team, or go to the broker route. And there are a lot of agents that I speak to that go, well, I'd love to get into the corporate. I love to get into the executiveship and work with the franchise. What's some advice that you might give an agent that wants to go that route and grow into working as with the franchise side?
Well, I would say the biggest thing you have to realize is, much like running your own business as a realtor, everything is your fault at the C-level. Whether you caused it or not, you are ultimately responsible for the good and the bad. So if the company makes a mistake, you contributed to that mistake and you got to own it. If the company did well, then you get to pat yourself on the back for 5 minutes. Leadership. And then you get back to work. Yeah.
Exactly.
And really, that's the nice thing about realtors, is that generally speaking, they're entrepreneurs. And so they understand that concept, but it is hard to jump from entrepreneur to corporate employee and back and forth. I've seen people make the transition smoothly, and I've seen not. It usually goes the opposite direction, where I'm in a salaried position and then I want to go independent. If you're not self-motivated and if you're not regimented with your time, you'll just flounder. I mean, you won't be able to manage your time properly, and it's a mess. So you have to have the right mindset to go either way, either into a leadership position or into that just independent role. I will tell you, it's not as glamorous as people think. Having that C behind my name isn't all. It's not all sunshine and roses all the time. And honestly, if you're thinking about going into brokerage ownership, almost universally, the owner makes less than their top agent. So if you're a top agent making $500,000, you're probably not going to make $500,000 as an owner. It's probably not going to happen. Ownership is not because of the money. You don't run a brokerage because you love money.
Right.
You run a brokerage because you love helping other people be successful and building something. In fact, I just watched a video last night. It was Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, I think it's his name, his partner. And they were talking about, when they evaluate companies to purchase, the big thing to look for is, are you in it for the money or the love of the business? I think if you're going to go into leadership of any kind, you have to do it because you love it, not because you're in it to make a ton of money. If you want to make a ton of money, go be an independent agent and work your butt off, and you can be extremely successful. That's, and yeah, could I make more money? Absolutely. If I wanted to, I see people my age, doing all this crazy stuff, just making buckets of money. I'm like, I wouldn't enjoy that. So I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I enjoy what I do. So the money can't be the only thing you're focused on.
Yeah, I always think about it this way. I wake up in the morning and go, what disaster did my children cause that I have to fix this morning? Because at the end of the day, it's all about management of people. And at the C-level, you're managing problems more than you are managing people. But it always shit rolls down from the top, as they say, right? And when you're at the top, or second to the top in the sense, putting CEO above you, you get a lot of this shit. And but that's what I love about this executiveship position, especially working with a corporate company. It's yes, you get a lot of the bad, but the good is really high, and the highs that you get from the accomplishments that you make really help propel the company forward. And for me, I think, although I'm not quite in operations as the chief client officer, a lot of that does fall, a lot of the SOPs fall under kind of my final call. But it's fun. The mornings are fun, and the evenings you go home and you're like, either I had a great successful day and I felt really accomplished, or you go home and go, wow, I got nothing done, and I just got to sit at home and spend the next 2 hours trying to just get something so I can go to bed. look, dedication. You've been in the business for so long. What is it about the real estate industry, Stephen, that kept you in it for so long?
I will use the word that I have literally used since the very beginning. It's multifaceted. I've always enjoyed the industry because you can literally do anything in the real estate industry. Almost, I shouldn't say everything, but almost any skill someone has, you can find a place to stick it into even as a technology, even if you're a computer nerd, go to the real estate technology. It's an amazing industry. If you like sales, you'll be, sales, of course, obviously. Transaction coordination, you can be, some of the best things that I have done in the real estate industry have been operational or procedural. That's the kind of brain I have is wash, rinse, repeat. Show me the system, show me the process. So when I was a foreclosure agent, that was probably the best 5 years of my career, from a financial standpoint up until that point, and also just from an enjoyment standpoint. I was crazy busy. I was on a foreclosure team. I had the largest Fannie Mae portfolio in the Metro Nashville area.
Wow.
Nashville, Tennessee, for those of you who don't know, which is a booming metropolis now. It wasn't quite as big when I lived there, but it was still pretty great. I was, in that 5 year, I think I did 375 transactions in that 5 year span. And that may not seem like a lot to some people, but to a 20-something-year-old, and doing it all by myself, it wasn't a team like you would normally think of a team. I handled it cradle to grave. It was the day of foreclosure. That's awesome. File came to me. I owned it. So we were on a team just by virtue of my team leader had all the relationships, but she didn't actually do the work. It wasn't like I was a cog in the machine. I did everything.
You were using her name to kind of leverage the leads.
Exactly. I loved every minute of it. There were one particular July, 3 Fridays in a row. I got seven new assignments every Friday for 3 weeks in a row. And I'm trying to have a life here. I'm trying to hang out with my friends, and I get bing, 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 bing in my phone. I'm 7 new listings that I have to do by Monday. There were times where I wanted to pull my hair out, and there were other times where, I had 5 or 6 commission checks sitting in my mailbox on my desk because I was too busy to go to the bank. Oh, boo-hoo, poor you. No, I loved it. But I did it. I was able to be so successful because I had a process. Right. I copied and pasted verbiage. I had a checklist. I had a whole instructional sheet on this is how you fill out the addendum. Agents liked working with me because I made the process much easier. And I was very frank with them. Look, if you screw up this paperwork, I'm not going to get this property sold. I don't get paid. You don't get paid. We all want to get this done. So it's in my best interest to help you do the transaction. I loved that part of it. And that really is what kind of set me on that operational path, is just having to force myself into these processes, because there's no way I was going to handle 90 files without having some sort of process I could follow every time. A checklist. My office administrator was extremely strict on the paperwork, and so it became a kind of a game to see if I could hand in a file without her flagging anything. So my paperwork had to be on point, and we had to keep every single offer that was presented. There'd be times there'd be 40 offers on a property, and I had to keep every single offer in paper form. This is still back in pre-digital. We weren't using transaction desks or anything like that at the time, so I had stacks of paper on my desk. I loved it. It was just a lot of fun. Would I do it again? No. I wouldn't do it today. It was fun when it was fun, and then it wasn't fun anymore. But that was a great time, and that's kind of where I started to see the beauty of processes.
So I love this topic because for me, standardizing operational processes, right, SOPs across sales frontiers is something that I think is underutilized in not even not just sales, but especially if we're talking the real estate industry. I mean, I feel like there isn't much of it being handed, especially from brokers. Some brokers do it better than others, right? Some team leads do it far better than other team leads, right? But I don't think there's enough of it, or there's enough conversation around it, because you've got your agents who come into the business not understanding, one, you're in a sales position. I mean, it's sales. Let's be clear about it. Yes, you're building relationships and you're nurturing, but it's sales, right? That's what differentiates the good agents from the great agents. But then you've also got your CRM and your tech, and I feel like agents don't speak enough about the importance or don't understand enough about the importance of utilizing technology and creating these processes so that it's not unique and it's templated. And every single time you get a lead or every single time you hit this process of your SOP, you know exactly what you're doing. You don't have to think about it. Why do you think that the real estate industry kind of falls or lags behind in this for the majority of the agents? And how can an agent who has that issue start to take the steps and to kind of compartmentalize all of these and say, this is where I got to start and this is what I need to in order to be successful to start templating my processes?
So I always think back to when I was selling the foreclosures, and I shared an office with my business partner, Tiffany. She's awesome. Hey, Tiffany, if you're hearing this. She was great, and we each carried about the same amount of files. So we were each carrying anywhere from 70 to 90 different properties at any given time in different stages of the process. But where she and I differed was how we executed on our listing. So the listing, it was time to go active on the MLS. I could have mine in within 10 minutes, start to finish in the MLS, active, done. It would take her half hour, 45 minutes to an hour in some cases. One of the biggest things that I did that's so stupid, I copied and pasted the MLS comments. Every single Fannie Mae property at that time had the same disclaimer that had to go in. She would sit there and type it all every time. I had a Word document. I got here's the comments that go in the realtor remarks. Here's the comments that are public. I had that process. I had to copy and paste. I knew where all my photos were. It's just a basic organization. And you may think, well, that's not a big deal. An hour, maybe I saved 20 minutes. Let's be nice and say it took her 30, took me 10. Okay, 20 minutes. How many listings a week did I have to
do that across the next? Yep.
And that's where I think most agents that aren't that don't have like a team structure. And I'm not shilling for teams. I have my opinions about teams, but I think individual agents, that's where they fall down, is they don't think about like, what is it that I do over and over and over again? It's like, yes, every transaction is different, but there are common things every single time that you have to do. Like paperwork. Do you have a checklist? Do you know what forms you have? This form is required on every transaction. Why do you forget it? Because you don't have a system in place to remind you, oh, I need this form. If your listings say the same thing over and over, just as simple as having the paragraph somewhere where you could just grab it and paste it in.
Right.
It might be 2 minutes. It's shaving a minute off here and a minute off there makes all the difference. When your time is worth, let's say, $100 an hour, saving 20 minutes, that adds up.
Yeah.
That's 20 minutes you could be out prospecting for more business, or in front of a client or whatever, or enjoying your life. It doesn't have to be about making money. It could be, that's 20 minutes you could be spending with your kids or on the couch, like I enjoy in my bonus room watching YouTube videos, whatever, whatever floats your boat. So that's where I think if agents were more, they would just be honest with themselves and say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try to think of what I do consistently where I can shave some time off. Or, and this is where the honesty comes in, are there things that maybe I'm not great at doing that I could have somebody else do for me?
Yeah.
Like, I suck at this. Yeah. Could I pay someone to do this for me? You don't have to be an expert in everything in real estate. I have the greatest respect for agents that go, I'm horrible at my paperwork, so I pay someone to do it. Awesome. You're great at getting that client to the finish line or getting them to sign that contract, but maybe you're not great at writing the contract, the offer. Get somebody else to do it for you. You're not great at your clear to close, contract to close process, then pay somebody to do it for you. Go out and do the thing that you're good at. I've got agents where I'm like, if I could literally just have them go on listing appointments and that's all they did, I would love it, because everything else is weak, but man, they can nail those listings every time. Their paperwork's a nightmare, but they can bring in listings.
Yeah.
Get somebody to do that for them. That's where teams can have a place, but I think brokerages also can look at it and say, what can I do to make your life easier? Can I take some of this operational stuff off of you so you can go out there and do what you're good at? It's some agents are great at prospecting. And they can't close a deal to save their life. Others can't make a phone call or hate cold calling, but if you put them in front of a hot prospect, they'll close the deal. Yeah. Find a place for them. You don't have to do everything cradle to grave when you're an agent. There are so many services out there now. You could literally compartmentalize every single piece of the process and only do the 3 or 4 things that you actually enjoy.
See, and I like that advice because you always talk about. There's 2 things that I've always talked about. It's one is how much are you worth an hour? If that task can be done by someone who you could pay less than your value, get them to do that work, right? If you're worth $100 an hour, like you said, and it's a $50 task, even if it takes you 10 minutes, find someone to do it, right? And the second point is I have the fear of, I don't call it failure, but the fear of sitting down and having to audit yourself, to me, feels like is what holds back most agents. They don't take the time to sit down and say, where can I be more efficient with my time, right? If like you said, if I know that I'm sending out, this text template or this email or have to make this call every single time, they don't sit there and say, well, how can I make that easier? Can I implement something that's going to allow me to maybe automate that email or automate a text message, or, hey, bring in an ISA because I know I'm getting 100 new leads in every single month. And rather than me having to sit there and cold call all day long, if it's not my strength, I'll hand it off to an ISA, right? And I feel like that's where most agents tend to aren't able to take it to the next level. They're great. They do the work, and you can have your 5, 6, 7 transactions a year. But if you want to take it to the 1 a month and get maybe 1.5 or 2, take it upwards of 20 a year. You really have to have these these processes in place. It's just you don't have to think anymore. The less you think, and the more that you could just. I guess it's not a reaction because it is predetermined, right? But you could just take that action without having to think. The better you are, the better off you are when it comes to the sales cycles. And I like the advice that you gave. It's good advice. Let's start talking about a little bit about tech. What is some of the tech that Coldwell Banker might be implementing or you have implemented that you think gives Coldwell Banker agent the upper hand over other agents and brokerages?
So they have some really cool tools that just make business a little bit easier. So, we have an e-marketing platform, which a lot of companies do, but it automates the listing flows through the system. It generates flyers and postcards and emails and like literally just click the one you want. And if you want to do a mailer, you click another button and it sends it to the printing company. Mm-hmm. And you click another button and I want it to send to 100 houses in this. I mean, none of this is new tech. It's not anything that, we're the only company that has this, but it's integrated to a point where the agent literally just click, done. Put your credit card information in and it's finished. Now you have a postcard mailing campaign in 10 minutes. Whereas if your company, let's say a boutique, and they don't have those back-end systems that are well integrated, then it's like, now I have to go to a third party. I have to input all the information. I have to type it all in, and I have to and then I have to push this and I have to do that. It's just going to take you a lot longer. So that has value because our agents can do things 3-4 times faster because our systems are more integrated. We have tools for social media advertising. So on a listing, I like social media. I'm pretty okay at it, but I stink at building Facebook ads. I don't know what it is about. They're just difficult to me.
The UI is
and I always
difficult.
get
I will
kickback.
admit that.
Yeah, it's in review. Why? What about this needs to be reviewed? It's a house. It's a description. I said it was. I clicked the right box saying it was housing.
Yeah.
There's a tool where it's literally like, I want to do this listing for a 5-day campaign. Here's my credit card, and it just does it. It rotates different photos. It does so much more.
Got it.
And the leads just flow in. I couldn't do that myself for the same price. It would cost me a lot more time and money to try to duplicate that exact. In fact, we've done a beta test or A/B testing where we said, let's do the system and let's do it manually and see what works better. And the system generally performs better. And it's just, now I don't have to pay someone to sit there and create 10 different Facebook ads for these houses. We can literally just go click, 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 click. And it's a lead gen campaign, so it makes the agents money. Like we always say, if I told you, if you put $1 in that mailbox every day that you'd pull out $2, would you do that? Well, yeah, of course you would. Of course. I'm just telling you, just repeat this process over and over, and the business will come back to you. Yeah. So with any franchise, almost any franchise, but the whole point of a franchise is those back-end systems are supposed to make your life easier. They're supposed to make your business more easy to manage, or easier to manage. I'm using proper English. And yes, there are some, perceived advantages of working at like an independent or a boutique or whatever. But for the most part, 80% of the companies out there that are independent, boutique, whatever you want to call them, unaffiliated, they don't have those types of systems. The large ones do. I used to work for a very large independent, one of the top, I think they're top 5 or 6 in the country as an independent brokerage. And they had a lot of those systems. But guess what? They had 3,000-4,000 agents. They had the money to do that. A 20 agent brokerage in Podunk, Indiana doesn't have the deep pockets to create that integrated technology suite. Right. So it's Coldwell Banker's systems and tools they're great and they work really well. But I'm not going to sit here and say we are the only one that have it all figured out. No, there's other franchises that have systems and tools that are just as good, maybe better in some cases, but it all depends on what you're looking for, what you're looking to accomplish, what is going to fit well for your business, and also the branding. So the branding is a big thing that, you can't put a price tag on the branding. It's one of those like kind of ethereal things that sort of floats out there. We all just know, like if you listed 10 real estate brands, people aren't going to recognize half of them. I've never heard of this company. You're right, but you've heard of mine. And so there's always the brand too. But when it comes to value proposition, and this is a little bit of a side note, but this is important because it ties into the tech and the tools. Because we sat as a group when I worked for Coldwell Banker. They said, what is our value proposition? And we started listing everything that we had. And our VP was like, okay, CRM. Doesn't everybody have a CRM? Yeah, strike it off. We have an intranet. Everybody has an intranet. Strike it. And we whittled it down to like 3 or 4 things. And basically the lesson I walked away from, and I tell my agents this on a personal level, on a business level, on a franchise level, it's what do we have that no one else has? What do we do that no one else does? And how are we perceived in the marketplace? Those are the 3 things that you have to answer for your own personal value proposition. The third one's not even that important, honestly. If you just can answer those first 2, I think you're good. What do I have? What do I do that nobody else has or does? That's the key. Is I can say, oh, I've got a great intranet. So does KW. So does Century 21. So does ERA. I'm not selling anything that's not available at any other brand. So what about it is so great? What do I have that you can't get elsewhere? And a lot of times it comes down to people. That's one of our claims to fame as a brokerage is our staff. We have an unmatched staff as far as I'm concerned. We're just deliver a great value to our agents, and it's that everybody talks about culture and all that. And yeah, we have a great culture. We really do. It's family. But we have staff that actually care. It's not that's not my job. No, you're not allowed to say that. Like I don't ever want to hear that come out of your mouth if you work for us. I'm not sure what the answer is, but let me connect you to the person who does know the answer. It's not, right. I don't know. It's not my job. That was a little bit of a tangent, but.
No, so you made a couple of really good ones. First off, you stole our tagline, making business easier. That's Set Schedule's tagline. So thank you for giving me the little bit of a push there. But I think the 3 questions that you brought up, not only is it relevant to Coldwell Banker in a sense, but these are questions that as individuals, as real estate agents, we should be asking ourselves. because with the amount of competition that's out there, the number one, I guess, way to overcome that competition is how am I different than the person next to me? How am I different than the thousands of other agents that you could just, type in a zip code, type in realtors on Google, and easily find, their information and give them a call. And it's not asked enough with real estate agents. They don't ask themselves enough, what am I doing differently to separate myself from competition? And to go back to the tech question, sure, the tech, tech that you provide may be similar, or you don't feel like there's that wow factor. But the wow factor is how I utilize the tech within my business. It's there. If I don't do anything with it, guess what? There's no advantage to it. So it goes back to myself, am I capable? Do I have the knowledge? And am I willing to invest the time in order to take that tech and create the processes? And we're going back against two topics now, but to take those processes to make my life easier so I actually have the time to invest where I'm, most fruitful, which is sitting and talking to clients and closing transactions, or finding buyers, or finding properties for my buyers to sell. So there's a lot of good advice in that tangent that you went on. So it's greatly appreciated. What's next for Stephen? I know again you've scaled the corporate ladder. I mean, where do you go from here? Do you stay in ops? Do you continue to be the COO, or do you feel like there's more for you to accomplish in the next, however many years you're going to stay in the business?
So I'm in a very unique position where I've never been before. This is the first job that I've had, and I hate to even call it a job, that I'm not looking around going, what should I do next? I mean, I always have been a climber. Not literally a climber. My CEO climbs mountains. He's climbed Mount Everest. I am not a climber in that respect. I'm a corporate ladder climber, but I basically built my career in my 20s and my 30s. I am, as of the date of this recording, 12 days from my 40th birthday. And I feel like I'm at that point where I'm. Thank you. I feel like I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, maybe I want to settle in now, because I've moved around the country. I mean, I've lived in all sorts of different cities, and I've had these great career moves, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, I think I want to build what I have. I'm in a great position. Years ago, someone it was a group of us at Coldwell and talking about, oh yeah, I want to be a broker, I want to own, and they looked at me like, you want to own someday, don't you? I'm like, nope. They said, what? I said, I have no interest in owning a brokerage. I've talked to too many brokerage owners. I know what they go through. I am perfectly happy. Yeah, I'm perfectly happy being the number two. I don't want to have to write the checks. That I am not that. I don't want to have to, lose sleep at night wondering how I'm going to pay my employees the next week. That is not the kind of stress I'm looking for in my life. I'm more of a execute on someone else's vision. I always have great ideas and stuff, but I'm much better at executing on somebody else's ideas, or bringing the ideas and, but not being responsible for making it happen. It's weird to say, but I'm really happy being I'm happy being the number two. I really enjoy that. We have plans as a company. I mean, we're not done growing. We've got a lot of territory that we could explore. We've got a lot of programs that we want to create for our agents, things like that. I mean, we went through a massive expansion last year. We went from 8 offices to 16, and we about tripled our volume. So that was awesome. But I would never, ever suggest doing 5 mergers in 1 year to anybody. It wasn't intentional. It just sort of happened. But so now it's like, okay, I needed a minute to breathe, and now I'm starting to get back in the saddle and going, okay, what do we need to do next? Like, we need to keep growing in order to create more value for our agents. We're not growing just to get big. Like, we're growing strategically and trying to figure out where can we bring more synergy into the company. So that's really, I got about 1 million ideas. So to say that I've arrived and I'm just going to be status quo, that's not true. But as far as a different position or different company, pretty happy actually, which is it's weird to be there. I'm coming up my 3rd year anniversary with this company, and it's weird. I've gotten, of course, people reach out on LinkedIn. Oh, I think you'd be perfect for this position. I break my own rule because I always say, if you're a true entrepreneur, if you're a true, successful person, you want to listen to opportunities. But I'm like, honestly, I'm happy, and I kind of don't have time. Like, I'm really interested. I'm curious, just not even for myself. I'm just curious because you're in my market. I'm curious what company you're calling me about, headhunter. But no thanks. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not at a point where I want to make a change. So it's kind of a fun place to be, but it's weird for me because after 20 years of ladder climbing, I'm kind of cool with chilling out on the rung that I'm at. So
that's awesome. I mean, not everybody can say that they found their calling in a sense, and it's good to hear that you know what you want, and now it's just a matter of kind of running with what you've got, and that's always a good thing to hear, because you always have those who, no matter what, they want more and they want more and they want more, and that's awesome, right? So it's a little bit of a fresh of breath air to hear that from your perspective. You know exactly where you want to be and you want to stay here, and now it's just time to kind of optimize and grow, within yourself. So awesome. But by the way, what do you do for hobbies and for fun? Anything that you do that you enjoy that you think would be a good pickup for someone?
So I'm a publisher, which it doesn't really sound like a hobby, right. But I do it for fun. I certainly don't do it for the money.
That's actually how we ended up meeting you, right? We reached out to you because of your articles on RealTrend.
Yep. I enjoy that. It's one of those, like, it's a Sunday morning project at this point. I don't have time in my business life to work on it, but it is something I enjoy doing. But if I was gonna pre-COVID, I would say I love go karaoke and going to wineries, things like that. I still get to go to wineries occasionally if they're outside, but I haven't really gotten back into the karaoke scene anymore, just being careful and all that. But yeah, I enjoy movies, and honestly, this sounds horrible to say. My like me time is literally just leave me alone. Like, I'm gonna sit in a room by myself and just shut my brain off and like watch YouTube videos or something. I don't even want. I love movies, but I don't even like watching too many movies anymore because I just can't focus for 2 hours on that. Like, I need to be mindless. I put so much of my focus into business. It sounds horrible. It's not like I don't have a life or anything. That's not true, but that's just how I relax. Like, my relaxation is not going out and doing a bunch of stuff. It's, I just want to spend the weekend doing nothing. Like, my birthday's coming up, and I'm like, I'm not working on my birthday. I'm not doing a thing. I'm probably not even going to leave my bonus room for most of the day. I will lay on my couch and just be lazy. Because you just have to know. You have to know yourself enough to know when you have to shut it off. And that's a lesson I've learned painfully for the last 20 years is, okay, I'm finally at this point where I'm like I was just saying this earlier today, this week, I have not worked in the evening at all. And that's weird for me. Like, I'm finally at a point where I'm like, I leave my laptop in the bag and I enjoy my evening. I don't get on the computer. I've not been working. I've been feeling guilty about it, but
I can
trying to allow myself that, like, you have an office, you have a job, do your job during reasonable business hours, and then go and have a life. And that's something that I got to give my boss credit for. He's all about the work-life balance, and he always says to me, "Don't mistake having a career for having a life." That's a foreign concept to me. I'm Stephen. I'm a workaholic, and so I'm trying. This is my year of trying to say no to things and to go, you know what? Nope, I can't commit to that. I'm going to focus on this instead. I'm going to focus on myself a little bit. As you get older, you start hearing the stories of people going, oh, you don't want to live. No one lays on their deathbed saying, I wish I would have worked more. And I always just say, whatever. That's totally something I would say. Maybe not. Maybe I should enjoy my life a little bit more.
I mean, look, we work really hard during the day, and you need time to kind of recuperate. Otherwise, you're just gonna burn out, and next thing you know, your 100% really is 20%, and you just get to the office just to go to the office. And you don't want to be there, and it's no longer fun. So, I think everybody's allowed, and that's another. You know, a lot of people tend to burn out very quickly, especially in the real estate industry, because it's go 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 go. They don't take the time to one, enjoy their successes, and two, enjoy life. And it's always, are you working to live or are you living to work, right? And you got to kind of decide. And I think earlier on in life, you know, it's okay to go 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 and live to work, but at some point you got to be able to turn around and say, I've had this much success, and now I need to actually leverage that to enjoy my life, and you know, enjoy what life has to give, because it goes by quick. Especially, I feel like as I get older, the days go by quicker, and I turn around and go, wait, it's Friday already? How did it become Friday? So it's good advice as well. Um, any advice for new agents? A lot of, so as you know, obviously, this mindset podcast is not only going to be to majority of our listeners are real estate agents. They come from the set schedule. They come from you know, our platform, and we are building the platform to network with professionals. So they're going to be, a majority are going to be agents, but we do have, you know, other real estate adjacent, professionals who are going to be listening. But do you have any advice for agents who are either getting into the business or have been in the business but want to take things to the next level, like you talked about, whether it's start a team or kind of, you know, take it from they want to double their transaction amount? What advice do you have for someone?
I think this works across the board, but especially for new agents, don't chase the commission. Don't chase the comp plan. And of course, naturally you'd say that you're a Coldwell banker, you're traditional. Not the best fit for everybody, but you know, when our managers interview a brand new agent and their first question is, "What's your commission split?" You're in the wrong mindset. That's not the question you should be asking. Is, how are you going to help me build my business? The money comes later. I'm not saying you can't be a very successful, you know, transaction model agent right out of the gate, but you know, you should be focused on what is the company bringing to the table that's going to help you do what you do best. Mm-hmm. Just 100% of nothing is nothing. So I mean, you can go get 100% split. If you don't know how to sell real estate, you're not going to make any money. So but I think that works across the board. I've had agents that have left 100% companies and come to us with more traditional comp plans because of what we offered. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people leave us to go to even more conservative comp plans because they felt that company had what they needed at that time in their career. That's fine. So I would definitely say 100% to anybody I talk to, don't just chase the money. What the company has to offer matters. As far as, you know, building your business or building a team, doubling your business, figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Is it, I want more numbers just to have more numbers, or is it, I'm trying to get to a certain income goal? To say, I did 12 transactions last year, I want to do 24 this year. Do you have the bandwidth for that? Like, how did you manage the 12 transactions well? Or are you just chasing this number because I should say I want more business? For people that are looking at teams, I actually wrote an article in Real Trends about this. Did you make enough money for you last year before you think about building a team? Because when you build a team, you become financially responsible for other people, just like opening a brokerage. If you didn't make enough money to satisfy your own financial appetite, then I don't know if you should be considering bringing other people on. Now, bring on like an assistant or something to help you elevate, that's one thing. But to say, like, I did 3 million last year, I'm going to start a team. Okay, so what if your team does 5 million in the first year? So now you've dropped from 3 to 2.5, essentially, if you're partnering. Would you be happy with that? You know, why are you building a team? Are you building a team just to aggregate numbers so you look like you're selling more? Or are you missing some operational support that your brokerage is not providing for you? So it's really that introspective, like, why am I doing this? What's my real motivation? There's nothing wrong with an ego stroke. I mean, I'm not going to judge you for, I want to be on that stage. Good for you. Go for it. I was never really an award chaser. but I do like a good pat on the back. Everybody likes to be told they're great. But I've seen people build teams just so they can aggregate their numbers together and see the 10 of us did 30 million. Look at how great we are. So you each did 3 million basically. If you divide it out, that's not very impressive. So you wanted to be able to say you're a $30 million team. Good for you. Are you making the kind of money that you want to make? You're living the life you want to live. If your team's not accomplishing that, then you shouldn't have a team. So it's just be honest with yourself. I think across the board is good advice for anybody in this business, is be willing to evaluate how you're doing your business, why you're doing your business. I think we all need a why. And if you don't know what your why is, figure that out.
Yep. Solid, sound advice. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed our conversation, and I did notice, by the way, thank you for creating your set schedule account. Meg actually emailed me or slacked me the like couple minutes after we had our phone call, and she's like, "Oh, Stephen created his account." I'm like, that means that we had a good conversation, because I remember there was that one lead from that was referred out that you saw that you're like, you were really upset about that, which
we still talk about that. I mentioned that 3 or 4 times on our lead gen. We have a weekly lead gen call for our lead gen team, and I'm like, they were giving out a lead in Milford, Delaware, and we didn't know about it. Oh yeah,
and I think for me, that's what I realized. It's like, how, I don't want to say the word seriously, but how important it was for you to be able to build and provide more to your team. And that's when I think I realized that, you really are a team player, and you care so much about not only the business, but your team, because the way you talked about how upset you were made me realize, okay, Stephen is the type where every opportunity is an opportunity for him to do something more and do something better. And I think that's what kind of really was the encouragement factor. Only after one conversation for me to say, hey, let's get you on the podcast. So it speaks a lot about your character, and it speaks a lot about how, you do care for your team, because it's not income for you. It's income for one of your team members who would go out and make the sale. So I thought that was really special, and it definitely, it motivated me more to realize how impactful we are as a company going to be for agents and teams and corporations like yourself. You yourself aren't a real estate agent now, but that was a really, really inspiring, I guess, small gesture from you to your team that I really appreciated. Nevertheless, thanks again for spending the time with us. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll get you on another podcast, but I'm sure we'll be in touch and we'll talk soon. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.